Hollywood has always sold the dream. The bright lights, the red carpets, the stars who seem larger than life. But behind the velvet curtains and the flashing cameras lurked something far darker. For decades, America's most glamorous industry was entangled with organized crime. The Mafia wasn't just watching from the shadows, it was pulling the strings, fixing the deals, intimidating the stars, and turning Hollywood into one of its most profitable playgrounds. This isn't the Hollywood you think you know. This is Hollywood corrupted by mobsters, where movie scripts weren't the only things being rewritten. Tonight, we expose the scandals that pulled the Mafia from the shadows of the underworld and right into the spotlight of the silver screen. Our story begins in the 1930s and 40s, Hollywood's golden age. Studios were booming, stars were being manufactured, and millions flocked to theaters every week. But while the world was dazzled by Clark Gable and Rita Hayworth, mobsters saw opportunity. They weren't in the business of movies, they were in the business of money, and Hollywood offered both cash flow and prestige. The first major scandal came through the unions. Organized crime infiltrated Hollywood's labor world early, using muscle to control everything from projectionists to stagehands. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, or IATSE, became a tool for mobsters to squeeze the industry. In the 1940s, Chicago outfit boss Willie Beoff and his partner George Brown turned IATSE into their personal ATM. They extorted the studios, threatening strikes that could shut Hollywood down overnight. Studio heads, desperate to keep production running, paid off the mob in secret. Millions flowed into mob pockets, while the public never suspected a thing. That is, until the scandal finally exploded. In 1943, Beoff was exposed, convicted, and sent to prison. The revelation shocked America. The Mafia had corrupted Hollywood at its core. Yet even as the scandal rocked the studios, it barely slowed the mob. Other families simply stepped in to fill the void. The union scandals were only the beginning. Soon, the mob was knee-deep in financing films. Independent producers, desperate for cash, turned to organized crime when banks refused them loans. Mobsters laundered money through film projects, making themselves silent partners in Hollywood productions. Rumors swirled for years that certain films had been funded by mob money, their box office profits, quietly feeding crime families back east. Then there were the nightclub's mob-owned hotspots, where stars performed, mingled, and sometimes fell into dangerous entanglements. The mob ran the Copacabana in New York, Sands in Las Vegas, and countless other venues, where Hollywood's elite brushed shoulders with notorious gangsters. For some stars, those connections became their downfall. Take the case of Frank Sinatra. No other Hollywood figure has been more haunted by mob rumors. Sinatra's career soared in the 1940s, but whispers persisted that mob bosses had greased the wheels for him. The most infamous scandal came in the early 1950s, when Sinatra allegedly sought help from the mob to secure his role in From Here to Eternity. The story became so legendary that Mario Puzo adapted it into The Godfather, where a desperate singer's career is saved through a brutal mob intervention. Sinatra always denied the allegations, but the FBI's files on him were thick with mob-related sightings, from dinners with Sam Giancana to parties with Lucky Luciano's associates. Then came Giancana himself, one of the most flamboyant mob bosses in American history. In the 1960s, his relationship with singer Phyllis McGuire became a tabloid sensation. Giancana flaunted his ties to Hollywood, using celebrities as both a shield and a status symbol. He mingled with Sinatra, courted the Rat Pack, and allegedly had connections to both the Kennedy family and the CIA. Hollywood wasn't just entertainment for Giancana, it was his stage. And in the end, his high-profile lifestyle may have helped lead to his downfall. But perhaps the most notorious Mafia Hollywood scandal of all was The Godfather itself. When Francis Ford Coppola set out to film Mario Puzo's novel, the Mafia wasn't happy. Joe Colombo, head of the Colombo crime family, launched the Italian-American Civil Rights League, claiming the film defamed Italian Americans. Behind the scenes, however, Colombo and other mobsters were negotiating with the producers. They insisted the words Mafia and Cosa Nostra be removed from the script. They demanded control over how their world was portrayed. The filmmakers, desperate to avoid trouble, agreed. The irony is stunning. The greatest mafia movie ever made, a film that defined the public's view of organized crime, was itself shaped by real mobsters. And while The Godfather turned gangsters into tragic anti-heroes, it also gave the mafia a kind of cultural immortality, mythologizing their crimes in a way that still fascinates audiences today. Hollywood scandals weren't just about movies or mobsters, they were about power. And nowhere was that clearer than in Las Vegas. Mob-controlled casinos became playgrounds for the stars. Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Judy Garland, all performed in mob-owned venues. Stars gambled, partied, and whether they knew it or not, helped launder mob money. For the mafia, Hollywood celebrities brought legitimacy. For the stars, the mob brought opportunity and danger. One chilling example is the murder of Johnny Stompanato, the boyfriend of actress Lana Turner. Stompanato was a mob-connected thug who inserted himself into Turner's glamorous life. Their relationship was volatile, violent, and ended in tragedy when Turner's teenage daughter stabbed him to death in 1958. The scandal shocked Hollywood, a stark reminder that mob ties weren't just glamorous, they could be deadly. By the 1970s and 80s, as law enforcement closed in, more scandals emerged. FBI investigations revealed the mob's continued influence in unions, casinos, and film financing. Informants like Jimmy the Weasel Fracciano pulled back the curtain, exposing how deeply Hollywood had been compromised. The revelations stunned the public, but for insiders, they confirmed what had long been whispered in studio backlots and smoky nightclubs. The mafia had always been part of the picture. Today, Hollywood likes to pretend those days are long gone. The mafia's power has faded, the unions have reformed, and the mob's golden age is over. But the scandals remain a reminder that beneath Hollywood's glittering image lies a history of corruption, intimidation, and blood. From the union rackets of the 1940s to the shadowy financing of films, from Sinatra's alleged mob deals to Giancana's high-profile love affair, from The Godfather's secret compromises to the tragic death of Johnny Stompanato, these are Hollywood's darkest stories. Scandals where the mafia stepped into the spotlight and the dream factory revealed its cracks. Because in Hollywood, nothing is ever as perfect as it seems. And sometimes, the most shocking stories aren't the ones on screen, but the ones playing out behind the scenes where the mob held the script and the stars danced to their tune. Lights, camera, corruption,